This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome to the very freshest and latest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Jerome Chirco, alongside my sidekick and partner in crime as usual, the Doc from Doc and Jock, that is John Macaroon. John, how's it going today?
As always, looking forward to the recording. Talking Detroit Tigers baseball. They are now in Lakeland doing the spring training. The whole squad's together. I saw all the puff pieces that the media has been doing. I'm enjoying the fact that everyone thinks that the Tigers are going to win the World Series. The fact that everyone's, going and focusing in on the fact that Miguel Cabrera was like, damn, JV, when he threw him some batting practice pitches. Everybody, Vito, around the time of spring training, they say it. Spring is eternal and hope is abound. Everybody is excited. They're ready for Major League Baseball to kick off. And around this time, everybody's positive. Everybody has a chance. Vito, everybody that's going to play in the Cactus League or the Grapefruit League is going to be looking to improve. And everybody feels like they have hope the first month of March.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody does have the hope, is optimistic. Will the optimism last for a lot of ball clubs? Actually, it will nowadays in Major League Baseball because of the two wildcard system now. You have two wildcard teams in both leagues, the American League and the National League. So these teams out in Florida, out in Arizona, man, they're really bringing in that vitamin C through the sun. I could use some of that right now, dealing with the cold of my own, a nagging head cold. It's been horrible to deal with.
Look at you in that U of D education. It's vitamin D, actually, that you get when you're...
Is it vitamin D?
Yeah, that's right. That's why everybody, usually that you probably would ask, if you ask them what's going on with them, they're probably taking a vitamin D supplement because everybody in Michigan, I think...
Well, I've been taking vitamin C for my cold. So I'm speaking of that. I thought you can get that from the sun, too, so it's vitamin D to specify, huh?
I could be showing my ignorance here, but I know it's vitamin D.
I think it's vitamin D. We'll go with the D for, not Doc, but for vitamin D here. Doc, I give you the respect and bow to you on that one because I don't know my medicine, my science. And he's a psychologist, John Macaroon, so runs a very highly established, accredited, reputable psychologist office out, in Sterling Heights, Michigan. So we got to pay him some respect as well.
Now, Vito,
yes.
I want to hone in on one singular player right now to start the podcast. Real quickly, I want to get your assessment on Nick Castellanos because everybody is looking at, can this guy rebound from a season that he had last year where to start the year, he was mashing the baseball. Many people had given up on Nick Castellanos, myself included. I was thinking maybe this could be a guy you could have traded off and maybe got some assets, but he missed 51 total games last year. He batted .285, .331 on-base percentage, and he hit 18 home runs with 58 RBIs. Many people called it a breakout season, but many people are now looking to him to see how he's going to recover. What is he going to bring to the table? Is he going to be a guy that could be included in a group of guys that you can trust to offensively produce and to be a player that this Tigers team can count on when you've lost a guy like a Cameron Maybin? Just in your opinion, just as a fan and an observer of baseball, do you think Nick Castellanos is the real deal, or is he somebody that maybe has already peaked?
Well, Castellanos supposedly is raking so far in spring training, which means nothing. It's always that hyperbole, that is used in spring training to start off spring camp when these guys are hitting well in BP, when BP is just against guys that really aren't great, aren't going to be the starting pitchers or of that caliber that they face during the Major League regular season. But Casty is a guy that I think can actually rake this year, too, with all that being said.
Do you like him as a player?
Oh, yeah. Defensively, not as much. Not a great glove at third base. And that's a very tough position to field anyways. But I think he's adequate with the glove, and he can be more than adequate with the bat. By the way, I don't know why people keep questioning his hitting ability after last year when, you know what? I know he got hurt, but before he got hurt, his hitting ability was very nice, was really almost or at that all-star level. So, and if you can get that out of your third base guy and get even more power production out of Nick Castellanos in 2017, that is key, I think, to the Tigers' success and how much they do have in 2017 as well, Doc.
See, Nick Castellanos is kind of an enigma in that he was highly touted in the Tigers organization, came up a little bit slowly. Many people are wondering, did the Tigers kind of ruin him by the confusion by having him play in the outfield, then having him play third base? But I do believe third base is his natural position. He plays it very well. His defense
plays it well, not very well.
You would basically say, Vito, that his defense improved in 2016. Not great, not all-star caliber, maybe not gold glove caliber, but he was more serviceable in 2016 than in years past, right? Because in years past, there were situations where you'd look at it and go, oh my gosh, an average third baseman would have made some plays. It seems like he's worked on his footwork, he's worked on his range. While it's not great, I do believe he has extended his range and can get to more balls than normal. But yeah, there probably is a little bit to be desired with his defense.
Yeah, there's a reason why he plays third base and not shortstop. His range isn't the greatest. He's not the most fleet of foot, will never be the speediest on the base paths or at third base in getting to balls and down the line, preventing those balls from getting past him down the line at third base. So his glove, he maybe made one or two more highlight plays, but he's not going to ever be confused for Ian Kinsler, Jose Iglesias, or a Gold Glove caliber third baseman, a guy that plays third base, let's say, that plays the position plays it very adequately and at a Gold Glove level, such as Manny Machado of the Baltimore Orioles. Will never get confused for a guy like that. Because for me, Castellanos, what he projects to be down the line as a major league ball player is a guy that's really all bat, no glove or adequate glove, and a lot of good batting production, I think, and power production mixed in. A guy that can hit 20 to 25 home runs year in, year out, or at least almost year in, year out. And I think we'll see that starting in 2017, a year in which he'll hit 23 to 25 home runs. I think that's fair to expect out of Castellanos at this point in his major league career, Doc. Okay. And if he's healthy, why not? That should happen.
So do you feel like there's an opportunity for him to take a stand and become more of a leader on this team and become the offensive threat that many people think he can become consistently? Do you think that he'll be on the field for more than 125 games this year?
Well, that's the key, is getting him on the field for $135, $145 games. Will he stay healthy enough? I mean, none of us can really measure that and predict that to a full level or to the most accurate level because, well, with any kind of prediction, it's hard to predict, hard to make them accurate. Well, it's very hard to accurately predict somebody's health as well in a given season, including a guy that was hurt in the previous season. So if he plays $135 to $145 games, though, let's say after playing only 110 in 2016. By the way, he played almost a full season in 2014 and 2015. Let's not forget about that. He played $148 in terms of games in 2014 and in 154 games in 2015. So remember that as well when talking about Nick Castellanos. So this is a guy that really hasn't been an injury liability outside of last season. So if he plays again at least $145 as he did in 2014 and 2015, then you got to believe you'll see an uptick in his power production, which means that he'll hit 23 to 25 home runs. And he went up from 11 in 2014, to 15 in 2015, to 18 in 2016. So he's been good for about a 3 or 4 home run increase each season since 2014, which means he's going to get to 21 or 22 at least. And I'm saying I'm going to take the over 21, 22 home runs and say 23 at least home runs hit by Nick Castellanos in 2017. Are you willing to say that as well, that he'll hit 23 home runs at least in 2017?
Yeah, I'm around that number too. I do believe that if he's in the lineup, and I do agree. But, Vito, you got to ask the question. I do believe he'll be on the field this year. I know that it was kind of a freak injury that he suffered last year. I think he's going to be a productive member because you see a guy like Nick Castellanos, and you can tell that he's a gamer. He wants to be on the field. He wants to be a productive member. You don't make those significant improvements if you're a guy that's just going to loaf. I do believe we're going to see steady improvement with him. But maybe a team like this, where they're going, he needs to produce, not only to help the team currently, but if things do go south, now you have another asset that you can let go of to bring something back. Because if he hits, in the neighborhood of 15 home runs before the All-Star break and the Tigers are struggling, then you got an asset. You got somebody that you can let go of maybe to bring back 2 or 3 players. Because right now the Tigers do have assets. And it's one of those things where each organization that we talk about here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network is right in the middle of like sticking with the season or selling. But I think the Tigers might be a team, if things do not go well, might be one of those teams that starts to disassemble. And by the time this airs, you might have the Pistons already disassembling. You might have the Red Wings on the verge of disassembling. My hope is, and I think what's best for the Tigers is to disassemble. So you're going to need Nick Castellanos to perform to allow Al Avila to go out there and force some teams to kind of make him some real offers, because whatever happened in the offseason, no real offers were made. No significant offers were made to allow this team to get better. And I think that...
Or they were just too stingy. And I don't think Nick Castellanos was going to be dealt. I think offers might have trickled in for him, but I think teams knew, other club executives knew that the Tigers really weren't willing to deal Nick Castellanos, who is still in his prime, going to get better as a ball player, they believe, and I believe as well, especially at the plate. So why deal him? They're not going to deal him if they read two on the fly, which they might, if they fall out of the race very quickly. We've talked about this ad nauseum. It's like the same old topic, and we've beaten a dead horse. But if they fall out of the race quickly, well, the thing is, they'll deal players like Ian Kinsler, like JD Martinez. I don't think they'll deal Nick Castellanos, and I don't think they should. Why would they deal him? When right now, he's not expensive for you either, and he's still very young.
The part is, though, Vito, I know everybody says, just look what happened with the Pistons. People were speculating and wondering, why didn't you go out there and get Boogie Cousins? Why go out there and get DeMarcus Cousins? He's out there. Well, a rumor was kind of floated out there that the Pistons said, hey, take Andre Drummond. We'll get back DeMarcus Cousins. They were like, no.
Yeah, and Pistons PR probably made that up to make it look good that they actually tried to trade for DeMarcus Cousins. That's what I think about that. Anyway, that's a topic for another day, maybe another podcast too.
Listen, I don't think that they're lying at all. I think that it's real. When you look
why
at
would
Andre
they take
Drummond,
it? They'd be stupid, though. I talked about this with my brother, not to make this a Pistons conversation now, but the Kings would have been stupid to not take that deal. Come on. They didn't offer that.
No, they were overvaluing Andre Drummond because, Vito, what do we think? In any situation, being considered lazy is a terrible, terrible thing that if it gets around, will kill your career. People can work on improving talent. They'll give you patience. They'll wait 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 and 5 years. But if the reputation goes around the league that you're lazy, that's a mentality that many people don't want on their team. So I believe it, and I think you're totally wrong. And
23, though. Only 23 years old. I'm 23. And I get called lazy by you. We're all a little bit lazy at times. And I think as you're younger, you get called that and refer to that even more because older people like you think you guys know it all, but you do know more than us. We got to bow down to you at times, but you think you know everything, and that we've got to respect all of your opinions. I mean, so I think him getting called lazy, though, Drummond, at sometimes is not necessary. It's overdone. And anyways, he would have been traded for a guy that's lazy himself. And DeMarcus Cousins. They're both lazy guys. Right? But lazy players.
But to piggyback it to the Tigers
yes.
and relate it to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was trying to see what you're going to try to do here, too.
I know people want to shop Ian Kinsler. They want to shop Victor Martinez. They want to shop these guys. But you got to remember, it takes two to tango. Okay, the other general manager will probably know at that point, by the time the All-Star break hits, if the Tigers are 10 to 15 games under 500, that Nick Castellanos might be a name you throw out there. So then it'll be incumbent upon Al Avila to actually demand more. That's why it's very important this year that Nick Castellanos perform, just in the off chance that the Tigers sell prematurely or they sell before the All-Star break, that this is a guy that you could let go of. Because, Vito, outside of JV, outside of potentially Miguel Cabrera, and I'd be willing to let go of anybody. There's nobody on the Tigers. Maybe Michael Fulmer's inching towards untouchable. Everybody
Daniel
else,
Norris, you probably don't trade either, by the way, right now.
Everybody on that roster.
Wouldn't trade him. I'm saying probably what they wouldn't do.
Listen,
I don't care what you or I think.
You sound like you're in line with the loser organization of that is the Detroit Tigers.
Well, they're not a loser organization.
They're not winning. They're winning another loser organization. They're
a losing organization to me is a team that finishes under 500 consistently. They used to be that. They are no longer that.
A losing organization has a $200 million payroll with a rookie manager. That's a losing organization. And the reason why is we've had the same conversation, like you said, beat a dead horse for the better part of 4 years. Buy or
and
sell.
How many podcasts?
Buy or sell. Buy or sell. Buy or sell. And where are we at with it? They've never sold. They've sold, with David Price. They tried to get some pieces back, but they've never made a complete overhaul and said, hey, we're looking to now go and start the rebuilding process by getting high draft picks. They've never fully committed to a rebuild.
Because nobody really wants to do that.
It's about
damn time. And I think in the current state of baseball, okay, teams do it, but still it's hard to replicate the models of the Yankees, what they're trying to do now, who still haven't, proven anything really with their model. They still got to prove things. The Yankees, with what they're doing, have they won anything yet? Now, the Cubs have. The Cubs are the biggest model of success. But guess how lucky? See, people think now,
so are
I know what
Indians.
you're thinking. I know what people think. Yeah, the Indians had some veterans, too. Some guys that younger, but kind of veteran-laden ball club, too. Mike Napoli, Rajai Davis, Corey Kluber isn't any youngster. Even Andrew Miller, getting him. Think about it. Carlos Santana. Guys like that really aren't youngsters anymore. Michael Brantley, who was going to be on the team, got hurt. Really not a youngster anymore. Now, Francisco Lindor, a youngster. Trevor Bauer, a youngster. Guys like that are youngsters. Danny Salazar, relatively speaking, but a lot of their guys have been in the bigs now for a few years and have gotten better through being in the bigs, through experience in the bigs. So they're not a perfect model for success of building from as well. And the Cubs, as good as they did with the drafting, with their trades, and getting younger and building a long-term product, a team now that has won the World Series at least once, maybe will win back-to-back titles. You got to also think of this, that not every team will get that lucky and be able to replicate that model of success. That's my point about that, Doc. About the Indians as well, you can include in there, I guess, as you're willing to.
Well, look at the kind of things I read. I mean, you hear the media asking Brad Ausmus, what do you think should happen if the Tigers win the World Series? Should Mike Ilitch get a ring? Is it still one of those things you guys are fighting for? Is it a rallying cry? I hear Miguel Cabrera, let's make one more shot at the World Series, indicating to me that they still believe that this squad that barely, missed the postseason still has an opportunity with everybody getting older and the same mix can actually compete with the teams in the Central and compete with the teams in the American League, as well as competing if they do ever get back to the World Series with the elite squads in the National League. And I say, no, at this point in time, you have to be realistic. I know that maybe the passing of Mike Ilitch maybe gave him a reprieve for about 2 weeks, but all the storylines are still there. The confidence level, I believe, in the majority of people is very low. Many people think that this Tigers team should have sold. I was right. They should have at the deadline last year. And I do believe that.
You sound like Donald Trump now.
I was right.
You're saying you're affirming yourself as being right.
I was
without
right.
anybody else saying so.
I was right in that I said they should have sold before all the questions said. They should have sold at the beginning of 2015, at the beginning of 2016. They should have even sold this year, but no, there was no takers.
And that's the thing. It's a two-way process.
But the attitude of the 2017 Tigers is not one that I'm really confident in. I just don't think that you make one more run with this band. It's not a band that you say, oh, we can make one last run with. I know you got good starting pitching, but there's still high risk of failure with Daniel Norris and Matt Boyd. So that's just what I see. I don't think you needed to take. I think when Miguel Cabrera says, let's make one more shot, you already had it. It was 2016.
Well, the thing is, he's got to keep the optimism. He's one of the players on this current Major League roster. What is a Major League roster meant to do to win?
Cash checks?
Cash checks.
Big checks.
So, he's cashing checks because he's making a lot of money.
Salsa
but he wants to win.
In the clubhouse?
Why can't So you'd rather them lose than just hit salsa dance the whole entire season. Not hit, Tigers not win. So I'm a fan. I still want to see the Tigers win. He's a ball player, still wants to see the Tigers win as well, and they want to win one for Mr. I still. And what's wrong with winning one for Mr. Ilitch? Now, he's passed, and I think it's out of respect for him. So what's wrong with using that as your rallying cry? I think nothing at all. That's why I think it's fine him saying, let's make one more shot at the World Series. Because what if he said, let's not make one more shot? Let's tank it. Let's forget about Mr. Ilitch. Let's not even try to win a World Series this year. What if he came out and said that? Any player openly coming out to say that, Doc, will get ridiculed, and rightfully so. I don't care what you think that the Tigers should have sold in 2014, 2013, whenever you think the Tigers should have sold. Still, right now, the Tigers intend on winning with their current ball club. And if they do start losing a lot, then they flip the switch and they reboot. They trade their players and retool for the future. That's, I think, their mindset, and that's what their mindset should be.
Their mindset should be, let's lose as many games as possible so that we can start selling off the pieces and move this along. This is only delaying it by another 365 days. All you're doing is kicking the can down the road year after year. And when you do stuff like this, it just delays the process of winning. That's all it's doing. Listen, the average fan knows what's going on with the Tigers. They're trying to sell us a bill of goods that they're a good squad, that they're going to have a successful year. They're selling hope. It's just right now, I'm going to need to see it. That's all. I just don't believe that right now that everything is going to come into place. I do believe that this team can have success if the pitchers stay healthy, if everybody stays healthy and everything goes well. I just think that there's too many situations where you go, ooh, there's a lot of ifs needed. You're going to have the starters play well. You're going to have the offense improve dramatically from last year. You're going to have no injuries. You're going to have the manager outperform what he's done the last 2 years. You're going to have the bullpen not be a flamethrower gas can. It's just too many ifs, and the more I think about it, the more I sit here talking to you, I go, it's going to be a disaster.
The more things you say, the more you're putting yourself out of thinking the Tigers have a chance to win. The thing is, there's nothing, I'm going to say this right now to you, there's nothing that's going to happen before the regular season begins that will prove to you that the Tigers can win. Because you know what? They're not going to make a big move before then to upgrade their center field position. They're avoiding the bullpen at the back end of games. And guess what? because of that, you're going to have to see them win in the regular season. If they start well on a winning streak, which they've done, they've done well to start campaigns in the recent past. In April, they've done well for the first week or two, almost for the first month at times. So the Tigers starting out well, that has happened. Will that flip the switch for you and make you optimistic? Because I know right now there's nothing, like I said, that will happen before spring training is over that will make you flip the switch. Because, like I said, no big move will be happening to upgrade the center field void or the bullpen, which they need to do and never did and never will before the season starts at this point.
Could the squad lose to Florida Southern on Friday?
People start thinking the Tigers are that bad. They're beyond, they're out of their mind if they're thinking that. I know you're kidding, but.
Exactly.
And Florida Southern, that is the exhibition opener. It is a traditional opener for the Tigers playing against this collegiate team from Florida Southern. There was a guy on the team at one point who went to De La Salle, my alma mater, too. Isn't that something? And I wanted to ask you, we can seg right into it here because you already mentioned Florida Southern. I wanted to ask you, what is the team's nickname? Without you looking it up, maybe you already did, but what is Florida Southern's nickname? Do you know it, Doc?
I have no clue. Hit me up. Tell me what it is.
The Moccasins. The Florida Southern Moccasins will not pull off the upset in the exhibition opener for the Tigers on February 23rd, which is Thursday of this week. And then the 24th is the Grapefruit League opener
there you go.
versus Baltimore at Lakeland. And then the first game of the World Baseball Classic is coming up. That's on March 6th, by the way. And the Tigers have no less than 15 players leaving spring camp early to play in the World Baseball Classic. Now, according to Bob Nightingale and Jorge L. Ortiz of USA Today Sports, it makes the Tigers a Major League Baseball club with the highest total of players participating in this year's WBC. How about that fact?
15,
no less than 15 players leaving to play in the World Baseball Classic this spring. For a variety of different countries, obviously, too, with that being said, Doc. That's a lot of good men, good ball players leaving spring camp early to participate in a great event for Major League Baseball, an event that Major League Baseball loves to see happen. So they advocate their Major League players participating in the WBC every time it does come up, and I think it's a good look for the game, for these players being able to play for their countries, and it's a very interesting event, tournament of all these teams from different countries, and these players come from so many different countries that a lot of these countries, too, are stacked with a high-level amount of talent. So it'll be cool to see who actually wins out this year, as a U.S. team will be loaded as well. Buster Posey is one of the notable guys on this year's team. It'll be fun to see what Team USA is able to produce in this year's World Baseball Classic, to say the least. And once again, the first game of the WBC is March 6th.
So what has been your assessment in years past? I know that several clubs do send players. Each and every year, the World Baseball Classic has taken place, right? I don't think it's affected my watching of spring training. I don't think it's affected at all because they are playing every day. It's tournament style. It's for your country. It's prideful. Do you think it's caused a real significant impact across the league? I don't think so. I mean, I know it's not one of those. What I am more concerned with is the fall league, is if these players are going to continue and play in these leagues after the fact, or if there's competitions or things going on after the season, after September and October, and things like that, I'm a little bit more concerned about. But if there's something going on right now, I don't think there's a real big concern right now at all because they're getting reps. They're actually playing at a higher level of competition. It might produce some country pride.
Well, the WBC is now held every 4 years, by the way. So the last time it was officially held was in 2013. So you know that now as well. Did you know that?
No.
That every 4 years it is run at this point, the World Baseball Classic. It's not every year. It's not every spring.
Last year was the Olympics or whatever was going on. There's been some kind of other alternative competitions going on as well where I've seen these players have gone off and done some things. Maybe the Olympics or something else. Well, whatever. I just think that, and looking at it, I'm not too concerned at all that the Tigers are sending 15 players. Are you concerned at all?
Well, no. Not a ton, because you know what? They got to get their reps in anyways during the spring. It's a great way to get tested right away against some great competition and better competition than in spring ball when you play some minor leaguers too who just, got invited to spring training and will never make a major league roster this season or in their lifetime. So I do like the incentive of playing in the World Baseball Classic instead of staying in spring camp where there's not as great of competition every day you play in a game. And Team USA is stacked, as I said. You have Jonathan Lucroy and Posey behind the plate. Wow, that's a very good catcher duo right there, along with A.J. Ellis, is what I see right now being reported. about the U.S. roster, what it will look like for the World Baseball Classic. And then the infielders will be Nolan Arenado of Colorado, Alex Bregman of Houston, Matt Carpenter of St. Louis, Brandon Crawford of San Francisco, Paul Goldschmidt, the all-star first baseman, tremendous hitter for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Eric Hosmer, we know all about him, of the KC Royals, Ian Kinsler, Daniel Murphy. So two very solid middle infielders, and specifically second baseman right there playing for Team USA. Outfielders are Adam Jones, Andrew McCutchen. Well, McCutchen can be McCutchen at times. We'll see if he is for Team USA in this year's WBC. And then Giancarlo Stanton of Miami and Christian Yelich of Miami as well. So you got some very good ball players. I mean, two potential all-star year in, year out outfielders from the Miami Marlins right there that I just named off. And I love that catcher duo. And two great players from San Francisco. The Giants are losing two very notable guys in Brandon Crawford, their shortstop, and then also their catcher. And really, their all-star veteran, their team leader, and Buster Posey. So a lot of great names right there just for Team USA. And that's just the position players. That's not even to name off the pitchers. And you'll have Rays star and ace Chris Archer, Indians playoff hero, the very much aforementioned on this podcast, Andrew Miller, who's a lights-out bullpen arm, can be used in any kind of role. So it will be very interesting to see now how Jim Leyland, the former Tiger skipper, will use these select, diverse amount of arms, talented ball players from really the top to the bottom of his roster. And then there are the guys who could join in later games or, subsequent rounds of the WBC if Team USA does advance in the tournament. And it's referred to as a designated pitcher pool. So a team can use up to 10 designated pitchers, but can't have more than 2 on its active roster at a time. So that is something there interesting as well. And
well, listen,
that's a fun list of players.
We've put it off long enough. We've made you wait about 30 minutes to talk about the most important story that came about in the last week. Donnie Kelly, baby, has returned to the Tigers, not as a player, thank goodness, but the Tigers' love of Don Kelly has continued. And Vito, you're aware, Jim Leyland is a special assistant to the organization, so you know who had some influence and who was one of the key components of Don Kelly coming back as a pro scout. Don Kelly, baby, back with the organization, and you had damn near thought that Jim Leyland had come back based upon the reaction. People had tweeted me, Vito, on our platform, at Detroit Podcast, one of the best interactive Twitter pages in all of Detroit sports. Follow us on our Twitter page, at Detroit Podcast. I had multiple people, Vito, message me that acquisition, hiring Don Kelly, was one of the single greatest acquisitions and moves in terms of management since 1984. I literally fell out of my pants. I was like, what? I was like, are you serious right now? People, Don Kelly is really polarizing, and he's an individual where people were really excited that he's now part of the management team and is a pro scout with the Tigers.
Who's probably not going to have any kind of impact on the roster at hand for now or the future at all, but people love themselves some Donnie Kelly baseball.
Why?
Including one of my buddies from back in high school at De La Salle, Brennan Kudla. A big shout out to him, a guy that went and did some minor league baseball announcing, and now he's back home in the lovely state of Michigan. He roots on the Tigers, loves himself some Donnie Kelly, and he had this cult following. It was hilarious, and Jim Leyland always loved him, and I think he invigorated, that Don Kelly following that was in existence while Donnie Kelly was a player for the Tigers. Always, I'll give him this much, a quality utility guy that could be used anywhere on the diamond with that being said. And the thing is, he came up with some quality, some clutch hits at times as well, and in some playoff games, like some clutch home runs. So Don Kelly did have the knack for the clutch hit in his bat. Now, really didn't have the knack for any other kind of hit in his bat whatsoever. Very light hitting guy. But the thing is, quality utility guy, we can describe him as that probably outstayed his welcome, though, in Motown. And because of how much Jim Leyland, who I love, how much Jim Leyland loved Donnie Kelly. And back to the World Baseball Classic really quick, and Jim Leyland managing that squad. And wanted to reveal to you guys some of the pool of designated pitchers that I had referenced that Team USA has to work with for this year's WBC. And some of the names include Michael Fulmer. We know all about him. And the reigning Rookie of the Year in the American League, as well as another name that all of you guys know more than well about, and Alex Wilson. So Alex Wilson and Michael Fulmer are part of the U.S.'s full pool of designated pitchers. And then you also have some other guys, some notables like Sonny Gray, Drew Smiley, a former Tiger great. So those are some of the names, guys, that do make up the U.S.'s pool of designated pitchers. And you also actually have, how about this name too, another notable name, Danny Duffy. We know all about him too, from the KC Royals, a guy that showed off signs of being a more than capable ace in the Royals rotation in 2016. Now, will he repeat his magic, the form that he found in 2016? That's a very big key to any kind of success that the Royals do have in 2017. After losing Yordano Ventura tragically too, the Royals have some making up to do, some ground, work to do in that rotation to build it back up. A rotation that already wasn't that good. Now we will see how much damage, has truly hit that rotation with the passing of Yordano. And the Royals, they will be a team, I think, that finish towards the bottom or in the middle of the pack. Won't be that central title contending squad and nowhere close to a World Series title contending squad, but it seems like they've always outperformed the projections. The question is, will the Tigers do so this year? And a lot of it is weighed upon or depends upon how much success they find, and or have in center field, in the bullpen, with their late inning arms. And then also, how much success does Brad Ausmus have this year? Does he show some signs of improvement finally, or stay the same kind of lackluster manager that struggles making in-game decisions, particularly in his bullpen? If he does really maintain that status quo, well, you know what will happen then to the Tigers? They will be not as good as they perhaps could be once again in 2017, a year after they barely missed out on the postseason, won 86 ball games, and realistically, they should have made the postseason last year. It was disappointing to see the Tigers not make it when a team like the Orioles did, who didn't have nearly half the productive rotation that the Tigers did, even though the Tigers had to deal with Anibal Sanchez and Mike Pelfrey at the back end of the rotation. Still, the Tigers' rotation was heads and shoulders above the Orioles, and the Orioles made it in. And remember, Buck Showalter did not use his stud closer, Zach Britton, when he could have, should have. It cost the Orioles in the end in that one-game playoff. And the Tigers might have gone home as well. They might have ended up, suffering the same fate. But you never know. You just want to get there. And now the Tigers having a chance to get there in 2017. Well, once again, it depends on the productivity of the center field position of their bullpen arms, especially at the back end of games. And it depends on the productivity of Brad Ausmus as the skipper. And I don't see really any of those voids being filled productively. And I don't see really Ausmus getting better. Because, like I said, he has to make a stride, but not just a stride. I'm saying more than a few strides, actually, to allow the Tigers to get back into contention for a playoff spot in 2017 and to actually get in to the postseason in 2017, which I see them having a shot to do so only via one of the two wildcard spots. And another way in which they will get in actually in 2017 is if Victor Martinez maintains his productivity at the plate that we saw him produce, especially in the first half of 2016.
He ate his spinach in the offseason, I read, huh? He bulked up. Looks like
People are saying that everybody is in a new form and is a new man right now, It's like Bruce Rondon, he's throwing changeups now, which we want to get into because he's your man. The flame-throwing, late-inning, right-handed arm that is Bruce Rondon that will probably open up the season as the setup man to K-Rod and might end up, supplanting. He might end up being the guy that replaces K-Rod as a closer, maybe as soon as this season. So we'll see about that. That could be a bold prediction from you or I, maybe more of you because you love Bruce Rondon so much. But Victor Martinez, really quick. Now, the PECOTA projections from Baseball Prospectus right now have VMAR hitting 278 with 19 home runs, 76 ribbies in 2017. Now, do we see that being a little bit higher than what we think will actually happen from VMAR? I think the power numbers will be slightly down from that projection as well. I see more more likely 15 home runs out of Vmart, something like that. Now, the 76 ribbies, yeah, I could see that because I could see 75 ribbies out of Vmart, maybe even 80. But I see more 70 to 75, so saying 76 isn't far-fetched. Now, 19 home runs, once again, I think is. A 278 batting average is not far-fetched, though, either. So the RBIs and batting average for Vmart projected by Pacoda from Baseball Prospectus, I don't think are far-fetched. Now, the home run total of 19, I think, is a little bit far-fetched. From this projection measure in Baseball Prospectus's Pacoda, which usually is not so optimistic. So I think they're a little bit too optimistic about the home run total, saying that Vmart will finish with 19. Doc, over or under that home run total, 19 that is, from Vmart in 2017. I'm taking the under once again.
I'm taking the over. I do believe also with the power numbers, with the contact, that what you're seeing in baseball and what is a struggle is you don't see a lot of base runners because of the defensive shift, because of the advancement of starting pitchers. You just don't see a whole heck of a lot of base runners. And if Vmart can get on base, and heck, if he just can get over to second base a handful of times more, he wasn't able last season to advance to any bases on any big hits. I mean, he would hit long fly ball doubles and just be laboring to get to first base. And that probably contributed to probably 24 runs not being scored by the Detroit Tigers. And if him hulking up can keep him healthy, keep him strong-willed, then it would be great to see him, at least get around the base paths a little bit. He'll never be a guy that you would look at and go, wow, he's going to steal bases and really get from first to third really quickly. But if he can just extend a couple more bases and do a couple more things, he'll even be a much more valuable commodity. And many people are counting on Victor Martinez to do some things similar to David Ortiz. Mash the hell out of the baseball, be a strong clubhouse leader, and be a guy that many fans can count on to help this Detroit Tigers team get over that hump, because he's going to be considered one of the big leaders on this team, and he's got to deliver. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to be in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 home runs. If my bold prediction would be, the likelihood is, I think last year you had around 6 to 8 guys on the Tigers hit 20 home runs. I think they'll repeat that this year. Castellanos, Vmart, Upton, JD, I don't know, pick 2 more, McCann, and one other player.
As guys that will do what?
Hit 20 home runs plus.
You said James McCann.
Why not?
We'll laugh at that one later on.
It's a bold
I like
prediction.
it being bold. That's extremely bold. That's the boldest thing you've ever said in your lifetime, maybe, Doc, because it's not going to happen.
Okay.
The chances of it happening over, under on the big Vito's over-under scale of
15%. It's a bold prediction.
Way under 50% and actually under 10%. I say 5% that it'll happen actually for James McCann hitting 20 to 25 home runs. I say, you know what will be tough for James McCann is hitting 10 to 12 home runs. That'll be tough enough for James McCann. And the chances of that are under 50% even. Him hitting 10 to 12 or him hitting 12 to 15. Chances of that happening are under 50%.
I'm just throwing out
but
names,
you're being
man.
bold. You're throwing out names and trying to be bold.
Don't be a player hater.
That's fine.
Don't be a player hater.
I'm hating on you being a player.
That's right.
I am the player hater right now on Tiger Sock. Now, you aren't a player hater when it comes to Bruce Rondon. You're never hating on Mr. Rondon. What do you think about the news coming out of spring training from Anthony Fennick of the Free Press that he's throwing changeups now, which
You have to. You have to advance. You have to
he
throw.
sparsely threw them. He threw them like at a 3% rate in 2016. Really only threw his fastball and slider. His fastball is his heavy-duty pitch. His slider is also a good pitch. He can strike out batters at a premium rate, and he can throw the changeup efficiently as well. Well, you know what that means? He will strike out even more batters. And he had a productive 2016 campaign. So if he can implement that changeup, mix it in well with the fastball, with the slider, you could look at some big numbers and big K numbers, specifically out of Bruce Rondon, and as that late inning, that setup man in the Tigers' pen in 2017. So what are your thoughts on it, Doc, on the changeups?
With pitchers, with starters, with relievers, they have to mix it up. You have to constantly evolve. And one of the things I want to look at with Bruce Rondon is, can he be a guy that can evolve, and can he be a guy that can maintain a spot in the bullpen? Can he be a guy that you can count on in the 8th inning role? It just seems like with Bruce Rondon, he's constantly utilized in a lot of different spots. They want to solidify his role as the 8th inning guy, but it just hasn't worked out yet. It just hasn't been a situation where he's consistently the guy that you can count on. He's getting better. I think he's a guy that's getting better. He's a guy that can throw the heat. And a guy like that, you do give multiple chances to, but there's been situations where he's been a flamethrower and he's been a guy that's been inconsistent. So he's got to continue to progress, got to continue to evolve pitches. And hey, if you can throw in a changeup with the arsenal that he has, then you're going to be basically unhittable.
Then you're salivating at the mouth endlessly all season long. And
I would love it.
You would love it. We would love it. We love talking Tigers with you guys on Tigers Talk each and every single week. And guess what? Next week is going to be episode number 80 of Tigers Talk.
Oh, good job, Vito.
It'll be a fun show to look forward to. Please tune in to that one next Wednesday when it drops. Guys, we're out for now. Enjoy spring ball for all that it's worth. Goodbye, guys.